every time when I was little, I've always liked her because she's always been really happy and friendly.
So, a memory that for you really stands out of Mom.
My RV trip to New Mexico with Mom. And it's my turn. I have to stop. I'll tell you later.
Happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Bob and Nancy, get yourselves over here.
Everyone.
I'm gonna move the picture, just so you know.
Get in here, girl.
Jim.
I enjoyed having Maxine and the rest of the family in our home for the marriage of Jim and Marianne on Christmas Eve in 2003. And other than that, my memories are mostly with Marianne and Maxine, or hearing accounts of all the adventures over the years that Marianne has experienced.
Well, the first impression was, I think the family came down when we were doing some remodeling in the house, probably around 2000, 1999, somewhere in there. And I remember Robert coming and Maxine into the house, and I think some of the children were with them, and just talking about some of the activities that we were involved with and what we were doing, and they just thought it was so neat. But I guess my biggest memory is that she impressed me as a kind, gentle, spirited woman. That's one of the main things that I remember about Maxine. She had a servant's heart. So those are probably the two biggest things I remember.
Like, there was no tension like when I first met her. It wasn't like I can't remember when I first met her, but I can remember a few years ago, we stopped by her apartment, and she didn't know who we were, but she was still nice and loving and stuff, and so it more like homely, I guess, more inviting us.
Whenever Marianne is down in the dumps a little, all she has to do is talk to her mother, even on the phone, and she's a different woman. She's all pepped up and feels good again.
Well, first impression and memory both built such a sweetheart, because we've been kind of adopted by the Morrisons, and Maxine especially, and so we've been spending holidays at our house, and just the joy that she has is pretty infectious, and
Especially if you're doing the cooking.
yeah.
She's fascinating. She comes and gets her chair and
she gets
sits
a chair,
and watches.
She gets a chair and watches
She's
us
really
cook.
fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and we love her.
Yeah. She's just so joyful and always happy and smiling and just full of love. Tons and tons of love. You guys are really lucky.
So are we.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But your mom and dad, well, I really can't find the words right now because they are amazing people, and they birthed all of you other Morrisons who I love so much, and so that's all I can say right now. I'm verklempt. I can't add because, oh my God, there's too much to say. Those Morrisons.
Don't mess it up. So close. All the way to the stick.
Hit it. Hit the stick. Oh! So I just have to come back and hit the stick.
But you get to come back.
You get to come back.
You went through one.
Right, okay. Hit the stick, Mom.
Oh, he hit it. Yeah. Okay. And now you get in it. Does she get it?
Oh, yes. The story is that we were living half a block, and we would all take off barefoot playing all summer together with the cousins. And neither Maxine or Mother knew where we were, but they were fine with it. Right?
So tough because
Right.
rocks wouldn't hurt our feet.
We were barefoot from.
Oh yeah, Mary Ann's feet used to be like leather. So she kept going barefoot for years and years and years.
And Maxine let you guys have pop, but it was hidden underneath the kitchen sink area where you normally have soap, and that's where it was kept. Because you didn't get it very often, but you had it in the house where we didn't. So.
My memory that stands out is we were on the Italian Riviera, and there was this highway that went with trucks zooming back and forth. I mean, zooming each way. And the pension where we were staying was on the other side of the highway from the beach. And we went back one time, we could have lunch at that pension. Do you remember that place? And anyway, Mom got frustrated with how much traffic there was. So Mom stepped out onto the highway and went like this. And I just remember this huge truck going and stopping. And then we all walked across the street. And Mom went across the street and
Like getting a whole
and
gaggle of ducks across the street.
it was like getting the ducks. But it's something that I never could have imagined Mom wouldn't have done in the United States. She would have done, it wouldn't have seemed proper. But
my mother, Lorraine Peters, was the niece of Oscar and Auntie Bailey, as we referred to them. And she graduated from New Hampton in 1938. She went to business school in Cedar Rapids. She met an airplane pilot. That didn't seem to fit the value system of the family, and so they sent her to Parkersburg, where she lived with Grandpa and Grandma Bailey, or Aunt and Uncle Bailey for her. And your mother was there, Maxine was there. So your mother and my mother spent a lot of time running around playing basketball and doing things that did not include the airplane pilot from Cedar Rapids. And so for a time there, they were fast friends. Uncle Bob was a little bit older and a little bit more serious, but yeah, they would go out, and I think they went out to dances, because I've heard that. But just generally hung out downtown, went to Waterloo, whatever the case might be. So my mom and Maxine were close there for a time. And that relationship, lasted for their whole life. And so when I came along, there were the Baileys with 5, the Morrisons with 6, and the Niemeyers with 1. So of the grandchildren, there were 11 grandchildren and Bob, where I fit in.
Means happy.
Happy birthday to you.
My fondest memory of Maxine is that she was such a great volunteer. And in fact, she volunteered for the students with hearing loss, or the deaf students. And of course, my career as an audiologist was with deaf students. So I really respected Maxine for her contributions as a volunteer, but especially for the volunteering she did with the students who had hearing impairment.
Yeah, her walking. She used to just walk us into the ground. Go out walk with Maxine and the dog, and she'd be way out in front of us, and we couldn't keep up with her. And, in her 70s and 80s and stuff. Just recently, actually, it's just in the last 3 years that she doesn't do that anymore.
She still was walking a year ago.
Yeah, she still was, but you could, it wasn't. It used to be you had to keep up with Maxine, and it wasn't easy. I'm good for a block or two, but she's gone.
I remember when I got the mumps, and I was like 18. I got them older than you usually get them. It had to do with the kid that sat next to me in a math class. When I got back to school, when he first saw me, he said, "Oh, my kid brother had that." And I was ready to wring his neck. But at any rate, Mom would give me soup and she would have a tablespoon, and I had big on both sides. I mean, it was swollen, and I couldn't get the tablespoon in, or very I mean, I couldn't get it in very quickly, so the soup would get cold before I could finish it, and oh, I was starving.
But you survived.
I survived, but
when I first got together with Jane, which is a little more than 50 years ago, we would come and visit in Waterloo, and as we were having dinner, Grandpa and Grandma Bailey would come in with ice cream. And they had just delivered soft ice cream to Maxine and her family, and they came in with the hard ice cream for the Baileys, the other way around. Yeah. And so before I ever met Maxine or Bob, I knew all about the ice cream connection.
We got graham crackers. We got graham crackers.
We got animal crackers too.
So we got the graham crackers, and we had this custard soft ice cream. So you must have had the hard ice cream. So.
Yeah, because I remember always having hard ice cream.
And they brought a roast for both of us.
A memory of Mom that just stands out is her getting up early in the morning. Of course, I was not up, but there are pictures of her feeding the horses. She loved to feed the horses. So that is my memory.
And didn't we used to meet you guys at Bishop's?
Yes.
Bishop. We used to meet, the Baileys and the Morsons would meet and have dinner at Bishop's. I mean, like every year.
Yes.
So that's a memory. That's a good memory. Yep.
And Bishop's used to be downtown where the offices were.
It might have been there at one point, and then it was out by Crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the Crossroads.
Crossroads is the one I'm thinking of.
Of course, it was Marianne Morrison who introduced me to my wife, and so as our relationship grew, I'd be over at the Bailey house, and that's where I met Maxine and Bob, and my immediate reaction was they were so welcoming and kind to me. Both of them were so sort of gentle souls and really fun to be around and talk with. And that's sort of how I got to know the two of them, and always enjoyed their company. It's Jane and her husband, Dick, who is he was in that room.
Yes, when Bob and I would come down to Waterloo and we'd visit Bob's mom, sometimes we'd go over to see Maxine, and every single time she would say, "I'm so happy to see you and thank you for coming and everything's so wonderful," and it made it a wonderful visit. The end. Yeah. Okay. I haven't done it.
Sorry,
I was thinking.
It's just a couple of blocks away from the city. So 70s. So,
Say again?
Your mom, is there a memory that just leaps out for you?
What I loved was our RV ride across America. Mom driving across mountains, meeting up with Dad in New Mexico. He was working at your clinic, Betsy's clinic. And Mom and I, our first night camping was in Kansas at a KOA. And Mom we didn't know what we were doing. And we parked next to a little motorcycle couple with Cabbage Patch dolls in the back. Do you remember that? Very eccentric. And we didn't know how to plug in the RV, So we lit a candle and read to each other Eudora Welty's Why I Lived at the P.O. And the next morning, the motorcycle woman, met Mom in the bathroom and said, "Honey, you are going to have to learn how to plug that thing in." And we made it over the mountain passes, going 20 miles an hour.
I remember being in a car with Mom on an interstate, and she turned out to be a speeder. She actually got a ticket, as I recall.
Oh, yeah. And they are spread out a bit, so it takes a little bit of, yep, open up the store.
And it's a low seat, Mama. So it's a long, it's a low seat.
Oh,
Bye, love you.
oh, I'm sure we will. Yep.
Yep.
So you take care of yourself.
Yep. Bye. Yeah, yeah, she'll get it. And I'll stop her.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your help.